Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bob Shurts, Vice President of the Road to Victory Military Museum, and we're glad to have you here and want to introduce you to some of the items, some of the artifacts in our museum, the Road to Victory Military Museum in Stuart, Florida. We're a living, working museum. We teach people about the history and sacrifice and valor of all the servicemen who gave the last full measure and those who are still living with us today. We remember the POWs, the MIAs. We remember the places they went, from Iwo Jima to Frozen Chosen to Iraq, Afghanistan, and we preserve those great feats of honor. So welcome to our museum, and we're glad that you're here. Some of you out there might have a need for speed if you've been watching some of the movies out lately. But here's a guy who didn't have a need for speed. He made the speed. This is G.T. Morgan. This is his flight suit. And he wore this when he was actually establishing a world speed record according to Guinness Book of Records. And he did it in an SR-71. Mach 3 plus is what he was traveling. And that's a very, very fast amount of speed. This is an amazing aircraft used for surveillance. It could fly higher. It could fly faster than anything in the world. The Soviets were envious about it because they knew it was flying over their areas and was mapping any and all targets that were underneath them. An incredible piece of machinery, and what's even more amazing is the cameras that were inside this plane. They could map 200,000 square miles in 1 hour. To give you an example of how fast a plane was going, if they want to map the United States, they start on the East Coast and have to start turning the aircraft by the time they get to Texas to get the West Coast in the imagery. And the imagery was absolutely amazing. With special film made by Kodak, we could see down to 1/10 of an inch. We could count buttons on shirts and read license plates from the cameras on this plane. And this gentleman, G.T. Morgan, was one of the guys that piloted it and worked with the instrumentation on it. The SR-71 was an amazing piece of work. They now have a new plane out there, so we'll be hearing about that in the near future. But the SR-71, from the late 60s almost to today, was the main means of us monitoring the enemy. That, as well as our satellites, the KH-9 and KH-11 satellites. And those satellites would eject film canisters about every 7 to 10 days, and it would actually be picked up as they parachuted to Earth by a C-130 that had like scissors on the front. It would snag the parachute, and the slipstream would bring the film into the back of the plane, and they would bring it to SAC headquarters or Beale Air Force Base, where it would be processed and targets evaluated and used for strategic planning. Once again, G.T. Morgan, one of the fastest men alive, in an SR-71 Mach 3 plus Guinness World Records. And he visits our museum here in Stuart, Florida. So if you come by, you might get a chance to meet him and shake his hand. Real nice guy, G.T. Morgan.